Hey, class of 2026, Dr. Richardson here. I'm so glad we're going to have this time together. We can talk about Wildcat Wellness and our second step lesson. So this is, we've gotten all the way to Unit 4, and we're in Lesson 1. But before we get started on that, I wanted to see if you can guess where I would like to go visit this week. So just take a look and just see if you can guess as a class where I am, maybe what country this is, what continent this is in. Just see if you can guess anything about it. Well, I know you guys are a pretty smart group, so I'm sure you came up with Tuscany. Tuscany is in which country? You said Italy. You would be 100% correct. And Italy is in what continent? It's in Europe. Italy would just be a wonderful place. And the Tuscan region has a dynamic landscape. It's got hills, it's got valleys, it's just gorgeous, lush produce. It's just a wonderful area. It's got small, quaint towns that people can go to. It's been around for thousands of years. It's just lots and lots of history is in the Tuscan region. I would love to spend like 2 weeks in Italy, just exploring and learning and just being a part of that. So, all right. Well, now we're going to go ahead and get into our lesson. And our lesson deals with a very important topic called conflict. And conflict is something that we all have. And how to resolve conflict is such an important skill that employers it's called a soft skill. And employers are looking for people who are just good at resolving conflict and settling disagreements and doing it in a peaceful and respectful manner. And this is the unit we're going to get into this. So this is one of those skills that's not just good for today and getting through middle school, but this is better for life. This will help you in all your future relationships and connections, because conflict is a normal, natural part of life. Is actually what helps us to grow and to evolve into better humans. So we're going to go ahead and get into our lesson. And a good big part of this lesson, and each of your teachers should have a copy of the handout. And it's really it's really going to help make this lesson a lot more rich. It's going to take you through a conflict. It's going to break it up into different scenes. And each scene, you're going to identify some reasons, and then you're going to discuss it as a class. So we'll go through it, but hopefully each of you will have your handout. Let's see if you can see it. You can kind of sort of see it. All right. So here we're going to go. So I'm getting ready to share my screen. So as I'm sharing my screen, I think it would be amazing if somebody could give in your class a definition of what is conflict. What is it? Okay. Well, I hope you guys came up with a good definition. So it's basically a disagreement. It's like a change. It's a different opinion. It's different viewpoint, different perspective. So in this lesson, we're going to examine common reasons why social conflicts can escalate. And we know what that word escalate means. I think of it as an escalator. It just keeps moving upward. So that's kind of what an escalate. It escalates from a minor, and think about you're getting on the escalator and then you're moving up to a different level and it moves into a major conflict. So what makes a conflict escalate? So as a class, take a minute, pause the video, and discuss what are your thoughts on what makes a conflict escalate. So welcome back. So here's our warm-up activity. And look at this picture and think about what's going on. What do you see? You see someone pointing their finger, you're seeing somebody kind of going like, hey, what's going on? You see the other classmates kind of looking into it. But do you think this is the type of thing or situation that you would go to an adult for help? Why or why not? So pause the video for a discussion. Welcome back. If you said that this was a minor conflict, you would be correct. This happens every day, and these are typically one of those things that will rise up and it'll quickly go away. So, this is an example of a minor conflict. But before we get further into the lesson, we need to define and understand the differences between a minor conflict, which is what you just saw, versus a major conflict. So, what's the difference between minor, and major social conflicts? So, first, I wanted to define what is a minor conflict. And you had a visual example just a second ago. A minor conflict, these are typically, like I mentioned, they will rise up quickly. They're generally easier to resolve. They don't cause long-term physical or emotional harm. There's really no harm. It may make you mad for that moment, but then you push through it and you realize, you know what? It really wasn't all that serious. So that's what a minor conflict, that's the definition for a minor conflict. Now let's talk about what is a major conflict? What makes something a major conflict? These are more difficult to resolve, and they often will have serious consequences, and they can cause physical or emotional harm. They stick with us a while. We have emotions attached to this for a while, and it may stir up. I remember when would work at the high school level, and I would have kids coming in with conflict. Well, it often started with something that was probably minor in middle school, like they knew each other from middle school, and it just kept escalating, and it still was going on in high school. So but there's a lot of emotion attached to it, and it can cause physical or emotional harm. So that's the definition for a minor and a major conflict. So now we're going to look at some common reasons why people get up that escalator, why they go to a major conflict. I'm going to see as a class if you guys can discuss what your guesses are. Like, why do these conflicts, why do they often escalate? So pause the video and discuss that as a class. Okay, welcome back. So we're going to look at the first one, and the first one is making assumptions. How many times have we done that? When something happens, we just assume, hey, that person, they meant to say that about me. They're mean, they're this, they're that. We make these negative assumptions. And it's similar to that automatic negative thought that we talked about previously, that our brain is just kind of wired to think negatively, and that was a protective feature that our ancestors needed. So making these assumptions, automatically thinking someone has negative intentions. We don't know that. We don't know what their intentions are, but we just assume that they're wanting to harm us in some way. So that's the first one. The second one is not managing your emotions. How many times have I talked to you guys and your teachers, your reading class, your science class, other classes? We talk about your brain is developing and your amygdala is highly developed. So that's your emotional part of your brain. So learning how to manage your emotions, that moves up to the cerebral cortex, which is that upstairs brain. That's your planning, your cooling down. So this is why we talk to you about different strategies to help you to manage your emotions, because when you don't manage your emotions, oftentimes conflicts will escalate. The third reason why we're jumping to conclusions, and this is similar to that first one, our brains are just going, hey, there's not enough information, but we don't think about that. We're just jumping to conclusions. We're just making a decision about it anyway. We've only got part of the facts, or only have a quarter of the facts. I know you've heard people say there's always two sides to every story, and it's true. There always are. It's different perceptions, can have different viewpoints, which contributes to the conflict. So not having enough information, not having enough facts about a situation, but you're making a decision anyway based on inconclusive evidence. All right. So, and the last reason, and this is a really big one, because when you have a conflict, what do? You want to talk about it, right? So who do you go talk to? You want to go involve your friends. Hey, did you hear this? And then somebody else is sitting over there hears you.
or you get on whatever social media platform and you're starting to text each other and it just escalates and it just gets bigger and bigger.
Because when you involve other people, they can sometimes say or do things that make the conflict worse. It's a fact. And you guys all know that. You've all experienced that, or you at least know of somebody else who's experienced that. So those are the four main reasons why conflicts escalate from minor to major, or they start out at move into the major conflict. Right. So now we're going to move into the activity, and this is where I hope the teachers will use the handouts and you guys will learn how we'll discuss the different scenes and we'll go through the process. So let me read you the directions. You're going to spot the escalation. We're going to give you tools today to help you to identify which one of those four reasons is going on that's escalating this conflict. So Troy and Jenny are experiencing an escalating conflict. Read each scene on your handout and put a check mark next to anything that characters do or say that escalates the conflict. The second thing you're going to do is you're going to determine the reasons the conflict escalated, and you're going to explain your reasoning. And that's the part where you guys as a class are going to have that discussion time, because this is the best way to understand and to learn how to resolve your conflict is to break it down and to understand the different components of conflict. So I'm going to read the first scene. In scene 1, Troy and Jenny decide to work together on a science project. Okay, that sounds good. They agree on the task they'll each do over the weekend. But on Monday, Troy says he wasn't able to do his task. Jenny is really upset, and she explains, "I bet you went out and had fun while I stayed and worked," she says. Troy gets really angry. He says, "She didn't even ask why I couldn't do it," he says to himself. Okay, so in scene 1, we now have the conflict scenario. So the reasons for escalation. So look over the handout, and I'll just review these verbally and check the ones that you feel like could escalate this conflict. The first one is not managing emotions. The second one is jumping to conclusions. The third one is making assumptions. And the fourth one is involving others. And there could be something else. So what did you see? Check which ones that you felt like applied. Okay, welcome back. And just looking over this, I would say Jenny had an issue with not managing her emotions because she became really upset. And she definitely jumped to conclusions, didn't she? And she made a big assumption. And Troy, he's also having issues with handling his emotions. He escalated with his emotions, and he was hurt, it sounds like, because she didn't even ask why he couldn't do it. So that's part of scene 1. So why did you choose those responses? Or why, or some of these, why did you not choose these reasons? So now as we're going to call spot the escalation. So you're going to work, I think it'd be better if you work as a group and determine what Troy, Jenny, and their friends said or did to escalate the conflict in scenes 2, 3, and 4. And as I mentioned, it's on the handout. And then just like we did in the other scenario, in the other scene, you're going to come up with the reasons the conflict escalated in each scene. And then we want to hear from you, like explain your reasoning. So class teachers, you can pause and you can just move forward with this if you want. I will go ahead and read it to you. Scene 2, the conflict scenario is, in fact, Troy feels so mad he starts yelling at Jenny. "Fine, some friend you are. I quit." And then the second part, Jenny yells back. So you're just saying that to get back at me for hanging out with Andrea and Charlie the other day and not with you. So look at the reasons: not managing the emotions, jumping to conclusions, making assumptions, involving others. Or did you notice something else that wasn't mentioned? And then again, why did you choose those reasons? So pause the video and discuss the scenario. Welcome back. Scene 3, Troy storms off. Later, he texts Jenny and accuses her of making him mad on purpose so she can quit being friends with him. Jenny shows the text to a mutual friend. The friend texts Troy and tells him to stop being a jerk. Troy is furious and immediately posts something negative about Jenny on social media. Again, check the reasons why. Not managing emotions, jumping to conclusions, making assumptions, involving others, or another reason. And then give the reasons why you chose those reasons. Pause the video and discuss. Scene 4. Pretty soon, the whole friend group is taking sides. They start saying things that aren't true and spreading rumors about each other. One day at lunch, they're arguing and yelling at each other so loudly, their principal is called to intervene. And this really did escalate, didn't it? So what are the reasons why it did escalate? Not managing emotions, jumping to conclusions, making assumptions, involving others and others, or other reasons. So all 4 of these, I think so as a class, discuss this last scene. So welcome back. And a lot happened in that. So it's just interesting I'd be interested to hear from you. I see you in the hallway. If you can just share with me what you learned from that. But it's a pretty good activity and understanding. And you guys have probably all experienced something similar to that, or you've witnessed it. So think about a conflict that you guys experienced or witnessed, and what were the common reasons those conflicts escalated? And why do you think that was the case? All right, well, that's the wrap up. I hope everyone is having a great time together. I hope you learned about the causes, why conflicts escalates. I hope we'll start to look at what we've done when we have conflict. How did we escalate the situation? Did we help it, or did we hurt it, or what can we do differently? Because this whole thing is a learning process for all of us. So have a great rest of the day and take care. Bye-bye.